Oh, good. I guess. Okay, so it is 2:32 on Wednesday, November 6th, 2024, and we're here for the Coastal Resilience Committee meeting. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that everybody come on up and get a copy of the activity that we're doing today. And if there's also an agenda up here if you want one. And there were copies of the PowerPoint, but I think those are all gone. If you want one, let us know and we'll get you a copy of the PowerPoint. So the first order of business, because I want to move right along into the activity, is public input. So this is a call for public input to the committee. Does anyone have any public input? Pregnant pause. Oh, Rosemary's here. Rosemary, do you have any public input? Okay. It says we're approving the minutes from the October meeting, but did you guys even get them? Okay, but we did get the September minutes with the corrections that Laurel did. So can we approve the September minutes? Thank you. So should I have a second? Okay, Anne. Second. Okay, so the September minutes with the changes that were suggested in October are approved. I'm going to move right now to committee member updates. Do we have any updates on the town council? From the town council? No. Okay, we just had an election last night, so the town council might be a little different, but a little more, but anyway, we'll get some more information about that and what their priorities are and as the next months unfold. Allison, are you there and can you give us an update from the town planner? Okay, so we'll take a pass. I will mention, did the town council vote on the GZA contract at their last meeting? They were supposed to. It was on the agenda. And did they approve it? You know, I don't know either. So okay, we'll find out about that. All right, now we get to the best part. Glennie, this is an update from the Block Island Coastal Resilience Coordinator from the Nature Conservancy. Glad to have you back with us, Glennie. She's letting you in.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. So I have actually an update. So as some of you may or may not know, I'm now working with Allison part-time, taking on a couple planning projects, including some coastal resilience pieces. So I do have an update to answer some of your questions earlier, Judy. So on Monday night, the town council did approve GZA for the Corn Neck Road project. The next step is going to be executing the contract. As far as we know, it's been drafted and reviewed by the town engineer. So just a couple more pieces before it's completely done. And then GZA will officially be underway with the project.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, Nigel, please use the mic.
Can we spell out the abbreviations in full? I don't really know what we're talking about. Okay.
Okay, yes. So once the contract is approved, I think we can share it and you'll get, all right, GZA is just the three initials for one of the companies that was, they were the successful bidder for the qualifications. They submitted a bid that was acceptable to the town who's managing this money. And so that was what the motion was about on the town council agenda on Monday was that they approved that selection. What GZA's agenda is. I think their first item is public input and meeting with us, but they haven't been able to do that until they get approved. This is Corn Neck Road, and yes. You'll have to come on up and use the mic, please. Yeah, whatever you say is important, Nigel. Come on.
It's just important that when information is conveyed, we sort of all understand what's being talked about.
Right.
Okay, and I get very confused by initials and not a full explanation of what's going on.
Okay, so this is we received just under $650,000 combined from the National Fish and Wildlife Federation and the federal government through another avenue, through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And this company, as well as a couple of others, sent in their qualifications for whether or not they would be approved to work on the project. And the company that was selected by a group of us, including, I don't know if I can talk about who the selection committee is, but it was, leaders of the town departments that are going to be affected by this contract, as well as, the town engineer, the town planner, and myself, and Glennie. We all looked, and so it was a good review team. It was a broad review team, and the company that won the panel's selection process was a company called GZA. They're familiar with the island. They are working for the state on the revetment projects on Spring Street and Corn Neck Road. They are the guys that were doing that work this winter or summer, sorry. And so anyway, GZA is and so once they got approved, and they had to send in a budget, and that had to be approved. And so that's where we are right now. I hope we're at a point where we can actually share. That's what I was hoping to hear from Allison, is that we can actually share the details of that project and what they're proposing. But we have a lot of chance of input. The very first thing they're going to do is reach out to the public to make sure they're on the same page as the public.
Yeah, step one of the process is it's called the kickoff meeting is what it's referred to, and is the timeline, and that's where you all come in.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Go ahead, Glennie.
Oh, I guess I only have one other update, which is just that, as you all might remember, a big piece of my job when I was working for the Nature Conservancy was conducting an ordinance review. And so I created, a pair of documents that are pretty comprehensive review of the town ordinances, with specifically identifying areas for improvement or suggestion. And Allison has been reviewing those and working with me to kind of take a first pass at it, to really edit it for clarity and feasibility before it then goes out for broader input. So that should be on your radar coming up this fall.
I was lucky enough to have a chance to look at that ordinance review. It's very comprehensive. It's very complicated, and I look forward to when that will get shared with everybody. I think that right now it's going through a process with the town where they're looking at it and making sure Allison and the new town manager, and everybody's looking at it to make sure that everything that that's in there is doable and things like that. So right now the town is reviewing it. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, I also spoke to Kim Gaffett about this yesterday, and she wasn't able to be here today, but she was suggesting a meeting in early December, once the new town council's in place, meeting with representatives of the town council, the town manager, the planning board, and CRC to talk about what do we do with the ordinance changes going forward, who's going to champion them. And so that was the
Yeah, and
thought
also
to try
set
to,
priorities, because Glennie
Mhm.
basically went through everything, and
Right.
now everything is the same priority.
right,
And we do need, as a group,
yeah,
with the town, need to go through some kind of a prioritization process,
yes.
because there's a lot of stuff in there. Sosha. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you very much. Um, so the next, oh, Glennie, are you all done?
Yep, that's it for me.
Okay, so the update from the Coastal Resilience Committee Chair, as you know, I've gone through a pretty life-changing experience in October. And so I'm really reevaluating my own priorities. So it's just very appropriate for tonight. I think that we all have an idea that there will be a lot of changes in 2025, and there will definitely be changes for me. My focus is going to shift more to my family, because I'm now caring for more than one other family member. And so I have to really give more time to the people who actually really do rely on me for real. And part of being reliable for them is taking care of myself. So I'm also going to try and carve out a little bit more time for myself. I hope that this isn't seen as selfish, but I do want to step away from the chairmanship of this committee. I love this committee. I plan to stick around until you guys don't want me here anymore. I'm not going anywhere, but and I'm still a member for another year. But as we go through our prioritization process today, I really want you guys to think about the next year and the chairmanship, the vice chairmanship, because Claire expressed, I think, at the last meeting that, if someone else is really interested, please step up. And or maybe she wants to be chair. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and hope that you all understand this has been such an honor to be the chair. I feel like we've just taken this committee and to a whole nother atmospheric level in terms of the connections we have in the state of Rhode Island, the different schools that are now focusing on Block Island in their educational programs at the University of Rhode Island, Roger Williams and Brown. And so I hope that we will continue that great work. And I have basically what I'm stepping away from is the administrative responsibility in the committee, coming up with an agenda, working with Laurel, getting the minutes out. It's all the other stuff that I work on, I want to stay involved with. I am not going anywhere with the Corn Neck Road study, for example. I'm in that for the long haul. Likewise, the Rhode Island Climate Resilience Learning Network. I'm a member of that, and I want to stay there and keep bringing those activities back to you. And so I want to, the relationships I want to keep alive. I just need help on the administrative side, and I can't do it all anymore. So thank you very much for listening to me. And with that, I am going to start our PowerPoint and move on unless there's any questions for me. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Sosha. God, I'm sweating. I have no idea, but I'm sure there's a way of sharing responsibilities that doesn't have anything to do with titles. Yeah, whatever the title is, we can whatever we want to here. So thank you. Okay, so any other questions while Laurel is setting up the PowerPoint? Thank you, Mary. Phew. Well, that was emotional, so it was kind of like, I think my eyeballs are sweating. Sure. Sure. Yeah, those things are just there, you know. Just put them down the wall here. Oh, there you go. Phew. Good, it's not just me. So, well, let me just get started anyway, and until Laurel can pull up the PowerPoint. The Public Engagement and Education Now Combined Committee has been working over the last month, but certainly before that too, on what do we want to do in 2025? What are the questions that we want to address? How do we set our priorities? What's the best way to organize ourselves? For example, last year, you know, with the working groups and the points of contact, you know, how did that work? It kind of didn't really. And so what can we do next? Oh, there you go. And it won't let you use your computer? No. Okay, can you create more printouts so that we can use those? That's too bad. So, but I can keep chatting. Anyway, how many of you have PowerPoints, the copy of the PowerPoint?
How many of these?
Oh, let's make 10. Why don't you make like 10 copies? Okay. Oh, she's just gonna copy it? Oh, that's too funny. Anyway. Yeah. This is- but anyway. Okay, yeah. We're going super low tech today. Anyway, so the the Public Engagement and Education Committee, like I said, has been meeting, and we have tried to boil down what we think we need to do to prepare for 2025 and to actually maybe accomplish a little bit more and have a little more clarity about what the expectations are for the individual committee members. Like if you're a working group leader, what does that mean? What are you supposed to do? If you're a point of contact for the North Light, what does that mean? What are you supposed to do? And so we wanted to determine priority actions for 2025 and also the best structure so that each of the committee members actually knows what their responsibilities are and can follow through on them. And then finally, we want to set a calendar for 2025 for meetings so that we can ensure that we have a quorum, because as you know, we just struggled this year in having a quorum at like 3 of our meetings. I think we should consider winter and summer schedules and what our priorities are for those. Like, you know, we have working group meetings like this where we're just, you know, working as a team, and then we have speaker meetings. And how many of those should we have, and what's the right balance, and when should they be? I think I can say, in my own opinion, that having a important speaker at one point in the summer is really a good activity for us. You know, we've had Brian Oakley, Michael Oppenheimer, you know, so, you know, trying to have one event in the summer, I think, that brings in the summer crowds. And, but let's think about when those working sessions should be versus the speaker meetings. So I did want to take you a little bit through our history just to get you started thinking. You know, we were formed in November of 21. That was our first meeting. In February and March of 2022, I'm on page 3 as Laurel's coming in here. In February and March of 2022, we had our 5 big ideas. Do you remember those sessions? And so it went over it was several meetings over a couple of months that, thank you, Laurel, that we went through the 5 big ideas and came up with our, focus on Corn Neck Road, things like that. In June of 2023, we had our first community engagement workshop, and that's when we brought in members of the town, town council, town employees, and conservation committees, and just anyone we could think of to set priorities for the town. And that's okay, so then as a follow-up to that, in 2024, we initiated working groups and points of contact. We thought that would be, if you had a title and that would help you know what to do. That didn't really pan out. So here we are. It's September of 2024. We've changed our name, or now it's November, but anyway, in September, we changed our name to the Coastal Resilience Committee, and we have a new mandate. So, so there you see the 5 big ideas is on the next page. Horn Neck Road north of the beach house, Horn Neck Road south of the beach house, Bridgegate Square, dune migration, marsh migration, and how we were going to actually try and make stuff happen around each of those 5 big ideas. Have a champion, write a short description, and sort of take the next steps in figuring out what we were going to do. From our June 2023 community engagement workshop, we the focus really shifted to improving coordination, looking at ordinances, expanding public education, and then in a more general way, they identified addressing vulnerability of downtown, a connection to the mainland, developing oyster reefs, dune restoration. So it's not necessarily focused on one area of the island, but sort of general infrastructure and things to protect us. And then for planning and funding, we need to secure funding, hire a specialist to bridge the difference between collecting data and planning, and to create a 30-year town plan for resilience and adaptation to sea level rise. Where we are right now is we have a new description of who we are, the Coastal Resilience Committee. And so we have a new mission that you can read on your page. I'm not going to read it to you. You guys, we've all been through this so many times. And what I really want to do is go to the next step, which is, where do we go from our new mission? How do we take the next steps? We've had all of this prioritization done, all this planning done internally to ourselves. How do we turn that into action? And so Carlos Salinas has generously offered to facilitate a discussion amongst ourselves to answer the questions of what are our priorities. What is that, page 3? Oh no, page 2. What are the priority actions for 2025? What's the best structure to encourage your active participation in our meeting schedule? And we don't have to accomplish all of that today, but I'd like to get as far as we can, in particular, the priority actions. So did I do, it's just before 3, and did I cover everything you wanted me to cover? Okay. So for those of you who don't know him, this is Carlos Salinas. He and his wife, Ann, who is on our committee, moved to Block Island as quasi full-time residents about 2 years ago. And we're very happy to have them as part of our community. They've been really active in this committee, in the Utility Commission, and they bring a wealth of experience, international experience, in bringing people together to make tough decisions, people with differing opinions and differing cultures and things like that. And so hopefully we won't be too tough of an audience for Carlos.
So as Judy mentioned, there are three main mandate areas in the new Coastal Resilience Committee. And so what the committee members have done is separated out those three mandate areas into three objectives. One, two. The first one, understanding the potential threats to the island posed by sea level rise and climate change. And you can get the fuller description of that in here, where it says CRC Mission Objective 1. That's a great question. Page 7. So that's where this next section begins. So there'll be a first objective. You can read through it on the handout. Objective 2 is the following page: regularly engaging with the community to collect input and conduct research. And then we have objective 3 on that wall, on that stand, page 9, evaluating and recommending opportunities for adaptation and mitigation. So what the committee would like to do is each one of you committee members have stickers. Some 6 red stickers and 6 green stickers. The idea is to take your 6 green stickers and put them next to the items under each objective that you think should be a priority. So it's 6 objectives spread out through the 3 objectives. 6 stickers, 6 green stickers spread out in the 3 objectives. There are red stickers as well. And those are if you feel compelled by an item to say, no, it really shouldn't be here at all. Right. So that's the first part of the exercise. Sosha suggested that after we do that, we have a conversation about the 3 objectives. If anyone feels compelled to explain why they voted a certain way for one of the objectives or why they might have put a red sticker, whichever way, Sosha suggested that would be a good way to sort of expand the conversation. Maybe somebody might change their mind and say, okay, maybe that wasn't where I'd rather have my green sticker. I want it there, or, oh, now I really want to put a red sticker there. So that would be the idea. First, just walk through with your 6 green stickers. The 6 green stickers all do need to be placed, at least. If you decided just one, that's fine too. The red ones, they don't all need to be placed. So if you feel compelled that some items should not be on. Correct. So why don't we give ourselves about 10 minutes to do that, if we can finish it under less. Any questions about what we're doing?
But take your time to.
They're in here.
Yeah, so underneath each objective, there are ideas about what those activities might include, but they are not exclusive. They were just ideas that were coming up by the 3 or 4 of us. And please come on up.
Maybe. Next to the actions. Yeah. And maybe just to add, if you feel there's something missing, there are Post-it notes. I'll put them here. You can write something that if you think something's missing and stick it on there. It's just to see overall, like, where do people think their priorities should be? And okay, if you want to, you can put your initials on your stickers if you'd like.
Thought this was the committee.
So yeah, so I'll amend what I said. Everyone that's here can vote. And just remember the 6 greens, try to spread them out. The reds, only if you feel compelled that an item should not be on.
Yes, sorry, I personally. saying we would become involved. That's not it.
No, no, this is where you think that, that'll be the second part. Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Objective one, there. Objective two, and then objective three. What is it? So whichever that you think here. Oh, sea level rise. Yeah, sorry about that. So.
You don't have there's another form maybe. You have your objective. There's gonna be one green sticker on everything.
Yeah, core net resilience, that's what that.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
The GZA is the name of the company. Core net resilience.
I've used those six, so I can't.
So the objective-
Correct.
Right.
You're out of the game.
Nigel made a really interesting observation that earlier in the meeting, Judy was updating us on the company GZA getting the contract. And it's, if you think that that's something that should be a top priority, it's under mission objective 3, where it says for CNR grant, that's Corneck Resilience Grant, Corneck Road Grant. So that would be where that would correspond, if you want to focus on that.
Good thing everybody has their fun, good thing. Going on. Can't be trusted. Here.
Now I'm on. All right, so we've got now the votes on the three objectives. In objective one, the clear breakout is the engage with CRMC together with the Conservation Commission. Oh, no, sorry, mission two. Sorry. So, collect and synthesize coastal resilience information to share with public. Got 8 stickers. Translate sea level rise data into action plans, has 6. And then 4 for collaborate with other stakeholders. So there seems to be some strong support in the objective one. And then one item was added to study the precedents. In other words, what other communities are doing or have done. And then for objective 2, we have the most votes are with the engage with the CRMC. The next higher is hold the annual coastal resilience community engagement in the summer, and also improve property owners' access to information about mitigation solutions, data about sea level rise impact, septic, insurance, et cetera. Those are strong. And then less is those are the 3 strongest. Contact list has 0. Potentially support or co-host with the Block Island Utility District, 2. Organize virtual storm tools training, and the overall regularly engage each have 1. And then the update, the town's sea level rise webpage with key links and resources has 2, but also 1 negative, the first red dot in the group. And then if we look at objective 3, but So for objective 3, it's not a good omen right here for objective 3. The review of ordinances has 6. That's the highest vote getting. The next second are a tie. One is the grant, the Corneck Road grant, focusing on that, as well as equal number of votes for collaborating and providing input to the town planner in the different activities that are relevant. Then that's followed by. So that's followed by. And then what's interesting is we definitely an item of controversies, working with planning and zoning to limit development in areas of risk. You have 4 positive and 4 negative. So that's clearly
Is that a role for this committee?
Right.
Getting at.
right.
But here, is it okay if I just put that in?
Not really, but
Yeah, there you go. Oh, then there's no, I see, there's no microphone there. I see. You got it? Okay.
so there's the advocate and contribute to finding grant monies is next, and then one that is added is providing input to the town planner on the new comprehensive plan. So one way we could do this is collectively, y'all could decide how many objectives you want, and then we can go down the line. Or I mean, actions per the objectives that you want. And if you put in a number, that'll automatically tell us how many are the top getters.
Another way, I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking about this for a second. What if we each went up with, I think there's yellow dots somewhere, or blue dots, and we put dots on where we would actually work ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that a way of identifying? Oh, and that's what this is. Okay, no. Mind. Oh, so we're on. Oh, please come up. Yeah, you have to come up because otherwise they can't hear you. This is not example.
Well, I'm curious about those 4 red dots. And
Yes.
actually I'm assuming that's the one that says manage and limit development in areas we know to be risky, and people say no to that. I'd really like to understand, because I would think, well, I don't want to derail the process here, but I'm just saying, I think that I'd like to hear from people who said definitely no on that, because I would be just I didn't put any dots, but I would.
I was one of the red dot putters, and I think it's because I don't think we are not mandated to do that. I think it's a planning and zoning boards and maybe the Conservation Commission that have that role. And however, it does connect to the town ordinance review, because a lot of those changes that we'd be hoping to push through would be ones that affect zoning planning. So that's where we would have an impact rather than directly on. That was.
That should be an effort from within the town, but again, this committee is advisory. And would the advisory be, yes, we do generally believe that the town should manage and limit development in areas, not that you actually identify, but conceptualize, conceptually. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. So what Rosemary is saying is that that while it's the town's duty to actually take the action as an advisory board, we need to keep this as an important item of discussion, or keep it out there as, you know, something to be aware of, or is that what you mean? Okay, but now you got to really talk.
Because I've only watched a couple of of the meetings online, but we often hear we've been watching the devastation from the hurricanes, and how many of us have said, why do towns, counties, states, federal government continue to allow people to rebuild in areas that we know are vulnerable? So this seems to be very parallel in my mind, that absolutely the town, something that should come out of this committee is to say, this is why we're doing this work, and this would be part of that. May I respond? Anyway, yeah, go ahead. You can still, so as a red dot person, on that one, the way I read it was, we aren't in the business of identifying where the vulnerabilities are, just that there are vulnerabilities, and that's easy to do. That's not a big task, but to go out and like, oh, this area is vulnerable or that area is, I don't think that is necessarily then that's the way I read that one. So I think it's just how we read it differently, that I was a red dot and someone else might have been a green dot, because you're correct. I mean, we need to be aware of and advocate for all vulnerability that's related to coastal resilience. And you're correct about that. I think we just read the questions differently. Oh, there you go.
Rosemary, I think another thing, and this is just from an outsider perspective, there's a few items that cropped up just now. They won't disappear. They'll stay there, and they may shift over time as people see opportunities for engagement. But that's exactly valid point. And it came up in the June stakeholder meeting as well, about, and I think it was Tom Rism that pointed out that in his previous employment, he had worked with ordinances to make sure that people weren't building in the wrong places. I'd like to suggest that in each of the three objectives, we have three clear outliers that are above 4 dots. So one could say that there are already 9 objectives that are ready to go based on what you have voted. I'd like to open it up to see if there's any objections to naming those objectives as those action items as your goals for those objectives. Yes, please, Nigel. Sure. So in objective 1 is basically the 3 that are posted there. So all three got more than four or more votes. And then objective 2.
Can you use the mic, please?
Yep. So objective 1, all 3 got votes, although the third one got 4. So that kind of throws the formula I had. Objective 2, you have 3 that are very clear. And one is engage with CRMC together with the Conservation Commission to improve coordination on applications and enforcement. The other one is improve property owners' access to information about mitigation solutions, data on sea level rise impact, septic, insurance, et cetera. And then the third is to hold an annual coastal resilience community engagement workshop or forum in the summertime. So those are the 3 that rise out. And on objective 3, so on objective 3, relative to what's written here, one is collaborate with and provide inputs to the town planner as he develops the new hazard mitigation plan. I got 4. 5, thank you. The other one that got 5 was for the Corneck Road grant, the GZA contract that Judy referred to at the beginning, to coordinate with the town officials, provide inputs and or flag issues to the town, stay up to date on what's going on, facilitate community feedback as needed. And then finally, based on the review of ordinances, proposed to the town council potential revisions to existing ordinances and/or proposed new ordinances as needed. I would say that this item that got 4 is actually a subset of those two, providing inputs as needed for the town grant applicants. Seems to be for new grants, so that's, up there. So that would be what I'm seeing. I don't know if someone is seeing it differently. I'm sorry? No, 3 would also have 3. It would have the collaborate with the town planner. That's the third item on your sheet. Then you have the CNR grant further down the sheet, and then the TNC review of ordinance is the last item on your sheet. I was suggesting, possibly incorrectly, that the one that's called provide input as needed for towns' grant applications could be a subset of what's already there. But it was pointed out that's more referring to new grants. But honestly, I couldn't imagine y'all not chiming in if there's a new grant coming up. Sosha, please.
So you already know that I'm highly interested in seeing to it that we get a resilience officer. Where would that fall, if anywhere, on these? Because we can't proceed with expertise the way we did without a person like Glennie. And chances are that we will have a replacement by March or April, which is fine. However, even that replacement may only be here for a year. And I would like this committee to advocate for a full-time position as such. And even if that, and I'm just talking now at the top of my head also, okay? Even if it means that that person becomes in charge, our leader of this committee, because that role is so important. It coordinates every aspect of climate change and mitigation strategies. And not everyone is trained to do that. Amen.
So is the action you're proposing to advocate for? Was such fall on it in any of these categories? We said funding. Oh, I did. Funding the budget process. We can't rely on the journey forever. That's not fair. It's not fair. And it's one of the elements of the work.
And I think it goes under number 3.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It's an opportunity.
And if I had an opportunity to move a green dot, I might for that one. Oh, there you go. Maybe I'll take all of Rosemary's green dots and put them all on that.
So one way to proceed would be, we have 3 new items up. One is funding, advocate for funding for climate resilience officer. The other one is provide inputs to the town planner on the new comprehensive plan. And the other one is to study the precedents, as in what other towns have done or are doing. Now, instead of adding new dots, I would say if you feel compelled to change one of your dots to one of these new ones, I think that's what would make sense. But that's going to throw off the count of what's already there. In other words, those 3 are good. They're very important. But do you feel compelled enough to change your current vote on another item? And then that would be a way to keep the same number. So why don't we take a quick straw poll? Because we have 2 different approaches on the table, on the floor. One is that you remove your own dot to shift it to one of these new items if you feel so compelled. I think that's a simpler option, so I'll weigh in on that. The other option is you get new dots. That's true. But that could be really good too, Nigel. So if you would like to do the approach of the new dots, please raise your hand. If you want to change your old dots into these other items, please raise your hand. All right, so the new dots have it. So how many dots are you going to give out? Because you can't give out 6 if we only have 3 items, right? So it should be maybe just 1 dot if you want to add. Right. Resilience officer, no. But I would say keep it only 2 dots or 1 dot. 2, okay. Valerie says 2, so 2 it shall be. Yeah.
So, this is, look at what other communities are doing. But I only had 1 dot, so. I went for we only do 1 dot, right?
We're good.
Yeah, with other communities. Doesn't matter.
And I would have thought those could be combined.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to make everyone cry, but at the candidates forum, the candidates were pretty clear that climate resilience officer is not happening anytime soon. Very clear.
Well, my understanding is that it was said that it was not necessary because they had me.
Yes.
Right. And my point is, no, you don't. And yeah. And let me just tell you that we have been growing with all these activities. And as the chair, you know, doing the agenda and the meetings, that's a lot of it. That's a big job. You know, the minutes and the agenda. That's a big job. But to also then be in charge of all the communication with all of the partners, it's too much. All of those partners need care and feeding. So if somebody else needs to do that. So Glennie is the one who picked up that for me and started, you know, being the primary conduit for communications with the universities because it's several phone calls a month. It's a job. And that's my point. That's the point I need to make to the town is that this is a job. This isn't a volunteer activity. It's a job. The other thing is I don't control any resources. I can't manage a contract. I can't even be a technical representative on a contract for the town. I'm not an employee. You have to be employee. So they're full of crap. Sorry. That's right. That's right. And it's what's really important will come out in the budget and we'll just keep advocating. Yeah. Nigel, you have to come up.
I have a very strong feeling that there's no one else on the committee who would be prepared to be the chairman. And so, you know, I mean, that seems like a strong argument for insisting that the town gets at least some money to.
So I would say it's safe to say, and given how many votes that item got, that advocating for a full-time resiliency officer is one of the top priorities, actually. Yeah, yeah. Jean-Louis. Can we put that on the parking lot?
Yeah, so that's a how versus a what, and that's a really good idea. Anytime we have a chance to work with the school, we're good with that. We've had student representatives on this committee, and I think only the first one really ever did anything for us. Several of them just came to the first meeting and then never showed up again. So And so anyway, but I think you're right. And that's sort of a how we do these versus a what we need to focus on.
So what I would suggest, and I'd like a straw poll, whether you're in agreement with that or not, is that we add these two top vote-getting action items to the objectives and not subtract anything. Is everybody okay with that? So there's the resilience officer and then studying the precedents, what other towns are doing, got 5 votes. Yeah, that's true. We got to hedge our bets. All right, are we good with those objectives? I mean, action items under the objectives? So we're done. Y'all rock. So now let's move on to this part. No. Points, well, working groups is the most important and then. Okay, yep, please.
Access to information about mitigation, nature-based solutions, data on SLR, impact septic issues, insurance, blah, blah, blah. Is that information available now? So, you're making this in my mind doesn't add up. Because you're saying a priority is to improve their access to what? To something that you don't have there. I mean, it seems to me that the substance of that should be, the substantive matter there should be a statement about that. And at some point you say, make sure that it's readily available to properties owners.
So So I would venture to say that collecting and synthesizing coastal resilience information to share with public is a feeder to that. Because, the fact is that there's a gazillion information sources out there. They're just not centralized. They're not made accessible. These are information sources that are specifically relevant to Block Island. So kind of gathering them, collecting them to share with people. So
You don't have, right, that information is a bullet, it's a goal.
It's starting from zero, basically.
I thought it's for 2025.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And sure, yep, that works. And also you have to remember that as the committee has existed, they're getting bombarded with requests for information from property owners. That's already happening. So it's trying to catch up to the reality.
I'm on Mohegan Bluff, so I've got other problems. But let's just say, let me pick on septic issues. You're telling me right now that there isn't information there. I don't want to use my Mohegan Trail. It just seems like this is
The next
off.
step,
Yeah,
yeah.
that the collection of the information is what needs to happen. But, and eventually, of course, once you have that information, you would want to make sure it's readily available. But to make it a task for a possible specific 2025 task that we voted on, seems like it's nice to have, it's on a list, but it doesn't have any substance to it.
Okay.
I mean, goals are aspirational in nature. So it's something we aspire to, committee wants to get there. Yeah. Yeah, so it's right there. Yeah. All right, anything else? All right, so let's move on then to working groups. Thank you all very much. We have 20 minutes to put this together. And basically, there's 4 areas where the working groups were and or could be, right? And so part of this exercise is if you would like to be Okay, we've got 20 minutes left before 4. So you want to discuss and then move on to people self-identifying?
Yeah, we thought that was if we ran out of time, the identification of who would work on what, we could possibly push off to the next meeting, that the idea that gives everybody a chance to really digest what we've been talking about today and where, where do I really want to put my effort? So for example, if I am not the committee chair, I'm going to sign up for a bunch of these things. But if I'm the committee chair, I'm not. So it's, I'm going to be, I know exactly where I'm going to be because that's where I kind of have to be. And I'm not going to pick anything else. So I think for now, let's make sure we have the right stuff on the board. And so that when we go away from today, we have an action item of, we're going to figure out which of these things I'm going to commit to for next year when we come up with, and then we're going to start working together to come up with specific actions under each of those things based on what we've done today.
So, I mean, we obviously, we had working groups before. Are these all essentially starting all over again? Yeah, no. But I mean, we had these working groups, right? I mean, there were names of the committee on these working groups, but this is a blank sheet. Are we starting afresh? Essentially, everyone is off, and now we re-nominate or self-nominate or whatever. Is that the okay?
Yes.
So the working groups that exist now are going away, or we're choosing to have them again.
Necessarily. I mean, I think we did a pretty good job. I don't know which one you would race off of that board,
Well,
but
how about, well,
be reorganized. For example, we had public information and community engagement as 2 separate committees last year. And halfway through the year, or just a couple of months ago, we combined them because it wasn't working. Public information wasn't but when we were together, we could actually create products, to do stuff.
right.
But, yeah.
So I thought through this process, the objectives, I mean, the new working groups or any changes would follow the objectives we all just agreed to. Okay. Sorry. All right. Yes. Well, I don't really care exactly which way we go, but I thought by going through the process of the objectives, that would naturally drive the working groups. I mean, why did we do it then? No, it wasn't, but it could be.
So what Ann said was what we could do is take each of these the little activities under the objectives and sort them into the different working groups. I think the point of right now is, are these the right working groups?
Let me say one more thing.
Yeah, I was going to paraphrase. Go ahead.
Oh, well, let me see if I can
Yeah.
paraphrase
I
myself.
think you can.
Well, if we can stick the objectives under those groups and it makes sense, then I guess we're good. But in trying to do that, we might find that the groups need some modification.
Just to add to the confusion, I agree with you. When I look at the working groups, they feel a little dated to me based on what we did 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And so if we do have the opportunity to look at the working groups and maybe rethink those into different categories that better fit these objectives, it might be infrastructure, it might be. Maybe just wait. Go ahead.
Regardless of what working group you have, these objectives will repeat themselves. They may, one of these objectives might fit all 4 working groups. I was going to ask, can we add to Cornick Road, Ocean Avenue North, and Bridgegate Square? That would be my vote for a working group.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so, let me answer that one. So, the working groups, points of contact, that was a split that we determined a couple of years ago now. And the idea with the points of contact were that you would like come up with ideas of what we should do in that area, take advantage of opportunities. For example, Bridgegate Square, we've been doing tours down there to show about the flooding and why this is an area why we, for the, and now Rosemary's knitting her brow. It want to be very clear that this is for what the town needs. We're advisory to the town, not to the employees of the jobs that, or the people who live on the hill, or we're not the residents. We're only advisory to the residents insofar as we're advisory to the town. And the town really needs to pay attention to the flooding for their infrastructure reasons. They need to pay attention to flooding at Bridgegate Square and at the north end of Ocean Avenue because of all the infrastructure we have there. And the businesses, particularly at Bridgegate Square, that are essential services, even though they're private businesses. And so, for example, Bridgegate Square, the point of contact would be just look for opportunities. That was the whole idea. Not that it was we don't have a grant for Bridgegate Square, but the point of contact might be the person who identifies money for us to do a study of Bridgegate Square, for example, for resilience purposes. Same with the north end of Ocean Avenue. Was a point of contact versus a working, but it's, if you want to call them working groups, there's nothing magical about that from my point of view. The working groups, let me tell you though, the working groups actually have work to do, like the grant support. We reviewed grants. That's what I spent a lot of my time doing. Corn Neck Road, we've got a grant going out. I definitely want, it could be me, but because I've just been involved in the process, but if somebody else wants to take that on, somebody needs to be monitoring what's going on with that contract and going down and looking at what they're doing and working with Allison and that's what I would do if I was on that team. Town ordinances is a huge job. And there were a couple of people that were working with Glennie on that. So it's like a group of people that already had, these were groups that already had objectives and work to do. The points of contact were kind of finger on the pulse. Is there something there that we should work on? Are there opportunities here? I know, like for me with the ferry, I've been working with Billy McComb for the last year about what are their big concerns, where, they're way more concerned about Galilee. I'm asking him, what can I do to attend meetings in Galilee so that Buck Island is showing their support for what they want to do in Galilee. I can come up with crap to do for every single one of those points of contact. But I don't want to do it. I want somebody else to do it and to be as enthusiastic and engaged and, and active. Yeah.
In terms of the working groups, another straw poll. Is there, yeah? No, actually, let me do a straw poll real quick. Should we keep, and this straw poll is non-binding, it's just to get a sense of the room. Straw poll, do we keep the current working groups? Yes or no? Just your sense, yes or no? It's not binding. And then the other question is, again, straw poll, are you more inclined to shift the working groups in a different direction, different name? No? Little split. Okay, go ahead.
Just in response to George's suggestion, I was just looking at where things fall in terms of objectives. And I think what we're missing is objective 1. There's no working group. I guess you could say the points of contact maybe are doing this for their different places, but there's no working group charged with collecting, synthesizing the information to share with the public, to look at the data, translate it into action, to collaborate with these other stakeholders. Glennie was doing a lot of that. But I guess the question is, should we have a working group that does that or a person who's charged with that? Question.
This way, so is collecting data. All of them is collecting data. It's really specific kind of work in all directions. It could be national, international. It could be state of Rhode Island about like, so this is, I cannot see the working group, which one would be collecting data. For me, I could see another group just focusing on that.
Well, I think under objective 1, translating sea level rise data into action plans, it has that implicit. You have to collect that data to begin with. Again, here, collect and synthesize coastal resilience information. That could be broad. Right. And so I guess the question is, Mary had an interesting thought, no? Okay, okay. It might gel.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes I think the opposite weird way. I'm just thinking in terms of different things, like breaking it up into community resilience, sort of a theme of community resilience. The legal work you're doing combined with the public outreach here, public information. Add legal to that with the work that you're doing with, I forget, is it URI or Roger Williams? Thank you. And then have 2 other groups, like a natural systems group, right? So then it gives you the opportunity to pull out of these objectives and put them into these different groups that are, I think, more of a balance of these objectives rather than these working groups. They just feel old to me from 2 years ago, but they also still can work, I think, very well because they're broken down. What? Yes.
So certainly personally, I find it much easier to focus on a problem. And that's what the working groups were really all about. You know, we were thinking about specific issues that we need to deal with, and we might use a variety of different ways of approaching that, depending on what our current knowledge is, what we personally know, and so on and so forth. And I think to get rid of the problems, in a sense, would be a really bad thing to do. You know, I mean, as I think many of you know, I've thought a lot about Cornneck Road, you know, as I'm sure many people have. I haven't thought at all about, I don't know, BI Ferry in Galilee. And you know, I think we can each bring something different to it when we focus on a problem.
Can you speak on it, Judy? Okay, so, all right, so we have 5 minutes, and so and we do have to be out of here because the town council is going to be in here at 4. So they canceled their Okay, so, but what I heard you say, so we have 5 minutes, and if we go over, nobody cares except you. Is to identify problems, which we had done because we recognized our problem around public information and community engagement, that we needed people to really focus on that. And we have a pretty good committee that meets almost, at least once a month to work on those kinds of things. The grant support, that one comes and goes, but it's really strong and important when it's needed. When Claire and I have both been, the receivers of stuff, or Glennie and I did the review of the qualifications for the GZA, or for the, for all of the people who submitted capability estimates, I guess you'd call them. So I think that's a great idea. Identify problems. Grants is a problem. Corn Neck Road is a problem. Town ordinance was a problem, and it's now a big job to go and follow up on what Glennie did. Glennie identified a bunch of stuff. Now, how do we move forward? That we definitely need somebody in this committee, and it's not going to be me. This is the last one that I want to work on. Is we need somebody to go through all of that stuff that Glennie created and work with us as a committee and whoever else, Conservation Commission, whoever else needs to be involved to, what are our priorities? What are we advocating to the town for saying, these are the ordinances, this is where you need to focus attention, your town staff time on making these changes. Okay. So what I heard a couple of you say, but Nigel in particular, let's focus on what are the problems, and maybe we migrate, some of the points of contact over into working groups, but the points of contact are still really important because, for example, we need a point of contact with the utility district. They're doing similar stuff to what we're doing. They have this ETIPP, which is a resilience grant. We should be working with them on what their priority setting with that grant. And we've had Carlos, who sits on the utility. Oh, you're just an interloper there? Anyway, I thought you were a member. Okay. But anyway, well, we have somebody who's been attending both of our meetings and has been sort of a communication person for us. But and by the way, any of these things doesn't have to be a member of our committee. If Rosemary said, I am completely invested in, some, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one of these that you would care about. But anyway, the Bluffs, whatever. But, if there's somebody who really wants to be in charge of something and do something, then we're going to support them. And hopefully they'll come back and report out to us. You have something to say, Anne. Can you say this?
Like the Corn Neck Road is already a working group. There's a problem, there's a grant, there's action happening. So what are the other problems where there is action that would require a working group, I guess, are from the points of contact that we think is more than just someone sort of staying on top of what's going on and on standby if something arises.
That's an interesting question. One of the things that we've certainly said in the past, is that, let's just go to a very obvious example, North Light, Sandy Point. I think the opinion of the committee has been, we have to simply let nature play its role. There's nothing we can do that would be cost effective to change what's going on at Sandy Point and the North Light. So why do we bother? It's a waste of time and talk and effort. I would sort of cross off the things that we, other than maybe making a statement.
Okay. And that's great. I actually personally agree with you on that one. However, I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions about Sandy Point. I'm sure other people do too, about the parking lot. What are you going to do? What are your plans? And, what is the town going to do? And right now we're just standing by, and we go out and clear all the garbage off of the parking lot. It washes up, all the sand and the rocks and debris. And maybe that's sustainable. But what I'm thinking about with a point of contact for that is that it's not always the chair of the committee. And that the chair of the committee could actually rotate, and so that maybe it's always Nigel that's the point of contact for the North Light. Wink, wink, wink. And he gets, and no matter who the chair of the committee is, you're the go-to guy on North Light issues, because when that parking lot gets taken out, the town is going to have to decide if they're going to move it back to the turnaround and let nature take its course out there or rebuild. And we'll have an opinion about that. And who are we going to turn to? Well, we're going to turn to the point of contact on the CRC, the Climate Resilience Committee is, that's what I'm going to turn to. Anyway, that's the idea behind the points of contact. Not that there's any action that has to be taken right now, but they've got their ear open. They just have ideas. They look at it and they think, oh, what would, yeah, okay. What questions might come up around this? Okay, I think I know where I stand. I think I know what I would say. West Beach. I mean, that's a problem right now. West Beach is something that that we could put up there that we won't. But because it, but that's also something where I get a lot of questions, and it's just, where is time spent, and how do we, spread the wealth? Oh, Valerie, come on up.
More of a comment. I think, last year I started, it took me a while to figure out even what we were doing, and I feel better about that now. But looking at the points of contact and looking at the working groups, looking at objective one is not necessarily under there. I would advocate that we put this off until next week, look at all of these things, and then come back and say, are there things we need to add, and then prioritize next week.
Next month.
Next month, sorry.
No. Oh, come on up.
I heard Socia echo this. I was thinking if maybe somebody can tell me why bluff erosion isn't on a list someplace.
Yes, actually, it's all the stuff, like the bluffs definitely were on there. They're on a list. They're just not one of our highest priorities. It's like nothing, like this stuff, this one that didn't get any votes, it just falls down on the list. And the reason we don't have the bluffs on is that right now there's not a lot of town infrastructure that's threatened by bluff erosion. So that's part of the reason. And the other thing is, the other thing that a previous member of the committee said was, well, what if it's on the list? What are we going to do about it? And when the bluffs, so let's say we control the erosion of the bluffs, then we don't have any beaches. So because the only source of sand for these beaches is the bluff erosion. There's no magic source of sand out in the area. George is our geologist. He'll back me up on this. There's no secret sauce for sources of sand. And if you look at aerial photographs, you can see it very clearly. And sand, North Light, and it's right. And and we can absolutely take the North Light off. Absolutely. That's why we're here today, is to take stuff off, add stuff. But yeah, it's only if somebody wanted it on there that it stayed.
The concrete sequential part of me is with Nigel. The question I have is, what project are we going to focus on in 2025 so that all those committees can give input into that given project? I know that Corneck Road is ongoing and will continue to do so, but what is our next project going to be? Yeah, what's our next focus? Our next project?
So what's our next vulnerable area after Corn Neck? I think that's a great question. I think that's a fantastic question. And we should. So we selected Corn Neck Road because the town selected Corn Neck Road back in 2013 after Hurricane Sandy. And so we were told by, I think it was the Infrastructure Bank, that if we didn't look at Corn Neck Road, we could just kiss off any chance of getting any money because it's already been identified by the town as the highest priority. Why wouldn't you go after it? And so that was selected for us. But and maybe the next one is selected for us when a big flooding event happens or whatever it is that triggers the town to seek grants for recovery. What we could do is identify an area and really try and go for stuff with it. But we need to do that in partnership with Allison Ring and others, because every grant, if a $10,000 grant takes as much to manage as a $100,000 grant, just so you know. It's just as many questions to answer, just as much paperwork involved, just as many phone calls, and it's a big job. So we aren't in the business, I mean, we have to do this in partnership with the people who are actually going to do the work. And that's Allison, and it's, Mike Shea and Dylan Chase and those guys.
As you know, a lot of these roads are state roads, and the state applies for grants. Can we play a role in that? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do. Part of the way I've been characterizing Corn Neck Road to, I haven't talked to DOT. I've asked the town manager several times to set up a meeting with the Department of Transportation, and now we have a new town manager, so maybe that'll actually go somewhere. But I may use Mary Ann as well, because she has some good contacts there. But anyway, I do think it's important that somebody, not necessarily me, goes to the Department of Transportation and talks about what we're doing and shows we brought this money in for Corn Neck Road. We're doing nature-based and natural solutions along the edges of Corn Neck Road to protect the state road. So the town is putting a lot of energy and money that it's collected. So, okay, state, where are your partners? We put money in, what are you, and that it just, so we aren't going always just with our hand out. Now we have something to offer in that partnership. The state process, probably Renee knows better than I, but it takes, really long time, years and years and years to get up. So we need not to get on their list now. The state road project that's going on now, I have no idea when that was initiated, but it was a long time ago. You wanted to come on up and say it in the yeah, somebody else.
Oh, I don't know what the answer to that is, but just as you're pulling all of this together, all I can see is a chart of the implementation actions, who are the responsible parties, what is the timeline? And it would be nice to set up something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question, but it would be nice for us to take this and put that in a chart, so then we can drop into those charts.
So everything we do, because we're a town committee, everything we do has to be done, publicly announced and in public, and everything that involves more than 5 or more of us. So what we do is we set up these committees to be smaller, so that we can do work behind the scenes. And but we have to report out here. Our town website we've never put any attention into it. We've only ever run into roadblocks of anything, and it's that we've wanted to put on there. And anyway, so the Nature Conservancy has generously established a website for us, and we need to publicize that. I just got the information on that yesterday. Right. And that we need to figure that out, because that's once our work with Corn Neck Road study now is just advisory to the town. And so, but as part of that, we should go out and look at it and make sure, whatever. There's nothing untoward happens. But I was thinking about my recent plumbing experience. But anyway, where I walked away and I was like, anyway. So we're like monitoring that on Corn Neck Road. And we're not doing anything. Yeah, the town does everything, right? And so we want to be really careful about what we want to work with them so that we're not making commitments that they aren't going to follow through on. Ooh, sorry.
So it's 10 after 4, and most, so it's clear to me from the outside that we're not quite there yet at the working groups. And I like the suggestions that George had about how the objectives can either drive the working groups, or what Ann did was trying to fit in some of the action items from the objectives into the working groups. So maybe by the next time, there'll be another proposal of this, and in the meantime, communicate what you're thinking about this. And of course, we'll send out the results with the tallies, and that'll probably generate ideas as well. But I would suggest that we draw this to a close. I don't think we're going to get to the reformulation of the working groups.
As our great organizer here.
So question is, would it be useful to take the priority actions and then sort of categorize them according to the working groups we currently have and then figure out what's missing? Okay.
I see town ordinance being a perfect project. The public info and community engagement handles its end of that. The grant support people handles their end of that, but the project is town ordinance.
So how would you structure yourself? How should we be structured to work on town
You know,
ordinance?
I think,
I
let's think about that because, and let's go, because we're on the committee we're the four that are gonna help
Okay.
put this back together. Yeah, I mean, so you'll be involved in how we communicate this back to the group. So the community information and or the public information and community engagement group is the one that's been pulling all this together.
See the roads being projects like Bridgegate Square, Ocean Avenue North, again, public information.
Oh, yes.
Get into that.
So the reason we did it this way was because of how people identified with the projects. It was really came out of who's working on this and yeah. What's the problem? And then, because by the way, public information and community engagement is involved in everything. And grant support is involved in everything, town ordinances, everything. But these were specific problems that we figured out we could address and that we had people assigned to address them. Oh. Yes, we did.
In February, we had the same conversation. Nigel and Sosha said we should organize by these sort of vulnerable areas. And we did that. And I think the only one that actually kept going was the Cornick Road one. So I think we have to balance, this sort of conceptual idea with like what's the actual work to be done and what are the priority actions that we as a committee are working on and how do we best organize ourselves to do those actions. So I do think there's a need to take these priority actions and to sort of try to group them together to some extent and see, like, is this something one person can do, or is this something that multiple people need to work on? And is there, so I do think that's a useful next step. I don't want to like leave here just like totally everything's back up in the air. And personally, yeah, so concrete, like what are the problem areas that need a working group? Like that's what I think we need to figure out. And I think taking these actions and sorting them might get us there. So that's what I would suggest.
Oh, Mayor, okay.
So I don't want to leave this meeting without the answer to this question.
Okay.
Because I guess I'm really focused on objective one, having data, having information. Everybody always wants to do a project, something visible. But this seems really, really important. Who's doing it? Is there a plan for somebody to do it? What's a timeline? How is this happening now and I just don't know about it?
Yes. Yes. So these are, a lot of this is being done by our partners, right? Like, so we've got modelers at URI that are looking at Crescent Beach And we have law students that are looking at what are the, at Roger Williams, that are looking at what are the legal implications of changes that might be made, or, pardon? Arietta? Oh, Annette Grilly. Yes, Annette Grilly, yes, at URI. She and is the modeler who's looking at Crescent Beach. But so translating sea level rise data into action plans, we're not going to go from the data. The data is at the universities. It's in, so we're trying to create partnerships that get us the information in a way, because we're the public in this regard. We aren't the data translators so much. We need to receive that. And so that's one of the activities on the Rhode Island Climate Resilience Learning Network, is that working across several universities and with several other towns to figure out how do we take the data that's generated by the government agencies and stuff and actually apply it at a local level. And I think that's a lot of what this is here, but we do that mostly through partnerships. And that's one of the big challenges for me, is that every partnership requires care and feeding. And I just don't have the bandwidth to care and feed all the partnerships that we're generating here. And that's why we need these committees, is to, start managing that in a better way. Yes, coordination, that's correct. Yeah. And that's why that's one of the reasons we really want a coastal resilience officer. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make an executive decision and call this meeting to a close at 18. I am so grateful for the time and attention that you guys have given to this, and for your thought processes and your intellectual engagement. I really, really appreciate it. And our little committee here will come up with something hopefully that is understandable and digestible and that you can live with. And so can I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay, all in favor?